they all say. That's right, I'ma do this thing my way. Let's go. Been grinding hard on it all day. Okay, we work hard, then we all play.
Yeah, well, I wanted to connect with you because I've been following you on LinkedIn, or we've been connected for some time on there, and it's been exciting to see what's happening with your current venture, which is Sweater. So I want to get into that, take a deep dive, because I think it's really valuable for everyday Americans to have an opportunity to invest. Which from my perspective, it's no longer a luxury to be able to do so. I think it's more of a necessity, especially with inflation, everything else that's going on. So we'll take a deep dive into that. So I know you've been running businesses for a while. Just kind of give an introduction, if you can, Jesse, about what you've been doing, and then exactly just a little bit of an intro into what Sweater is right now.
Yeah, for sure. So happy to provide a little bit of background. I mean, most recently, well, I should say, my name is Jesse Randall. I'm the CEO of Sweater. Been doing this for about 5 years. Previous to this, I've been in the startup ecosystem for probably 15 or 16 years now. I discovered startups when I was in my undergrad a long time ago, tried getting a company off the ground, and it was promptly crushed by the 2008 financial crisis, which was heart-wrenching and a really good experience to go through. Ended up going to grad school, got my MBA at Thunderbird, did a master's of environmental policy at the Vermont Law School, thinking I was going to get into clean tech, and that whole world collapsed in 2010, 2011, and ended up kind of forcing my hand, and somebody gave me an introduction to work at a startup accelerator in software. And I didn't know squat about software. I used it every day and I love the internet, but I'd never been on the business side of the equation. Ended up being the director of operations for this project, ran 4 cohorts through that, had a lot of private clients, worked with about 150 companies, all in the software space and every vertical that's out there, basically. Left that to do another startup. You can only build other people's dreams for so long. And finally got the itch and went out on my own and failed miserably. It was also awesome. It was more like a professional failure instead of like an undergrad, student failure. And actually put my family in a pretty precarious financial position coming out of that. Learned a ton, and definitely empathize with how hard it is to build startups. It's not just, plug in a formula and go do it right. I knew all the formulas. I've been advising companies for years, and I still drove this thing right off a cliff. Ended up working privately for a few different companies, helped them raise money. And then I had the idea of going out and wanting to start my own fund. And it was having meetings with some potential anchor LPs or anchor investors that could have supported that. And found out very quickly that I wouldn't be able to invest in my own fund because I was not accredited, which I thought was absurd, given that I was the guy that was running the fund, that I couldn't invest in my own fund, and went down this rabbit hole. And because of my policy background, I knew where to hunt, and I wanted to understand like the context of where these laws were really passed from. And the rabbit hole took me way back to the 1930s, post-Great Depression, lots of consumer protection mentality out there after so many people got hurt financially, in everything that happened in the late 30s with the Great Depression and everything, or excuse me, in the 30s with the Great Depression. And they put these laws in place, and the justification basically said, well, accreditation laws. Yeah, I think that if you're not wealthy, you're probably not smart enough to understand this stuff, and we need to protect you. And it was kind of condescending, and that lit a fire in me, because I was like, okay, if that includes me, that includes all these other smart people I know, then this is truly out of touch. And I wanted to kind of figure out how to meld these two worlds, a passion for, providing equal access into a vertical in a space that I believed in, and I believe fundamentally shapes the world around us, and that it shouldn't just be the 1% of people that influence what the future holds for us. And I wanted to open that up. There was a 5-year journey after that I can tell you more about, but that's what put me onto the Sweater path. And 5 years later, here we are. Absolutely. So Sweater has opened the venture capital asset class to the general public, and specifically venture capital funds. So there's a whole world out there of what we refer to as private VC funds, which in a traditional sense, require $250,000 checks to participate. Really big funds that you may have heard of, like an Andreessen Horowitz or a Sequoia or a Benchmark, minimums for those funds are, 5 million, 25 million. I mean, they're really massive. And it just, the vast majority of people can't participate in this asset class. So we've created what we call public VC funds, which means that the general public can participate. And by doing that, it equalizes everything. So we can take money from the little guy, we can take money from big institutions. You can be accredited, you can be unaccredited. Our minimum investment instead of $500,000 is $500. The average check that comes in is around $2 or $3 grand. We have people that have put in hundreds of thousands of dollars, and a lot of people that put in the bare minimum of $500. The whole experience is technology driven. So it's delivered through a mobile app. Anybody can go download the app now. You don't have to make an investment to experience the content that we have in there. We do have a lot of education around how venture capital works. We talk about our portfolio companies. You can get a feel for that, and then tell a lot of founder stories. And so it's powerful for us to kind of be able to provide courtside seats to the whole process, sort of let you sit in the Shark Tank seat a little bit and get a feel for what it's like to see how venture capital operates. And so when people, just kind of put a cap on that, when people invest into our fund, this fund is called the Cashmere Fund because, we like branding. So you put money into the Cashmere Fund and it's all professionally managed. We take care of absolutely everything. So when I say courtside seats, it means you're literally courtside seats. You don't get to shoot the ball or coach the team. You don't get to make the investment decisions, but we will give you a tour of the locker room, right? And we'll make sure that you're right there when the game is going on and make you feel like you're really part of it, and give you something to talk about on the weekends and have it really be a part of your persona and who you are.
Yeah. So let's break it down a little bit, kind of investing 101. So Sweater provides an opportunity for everyday folks to invest in certain companies that might be startups, might be a little bit beyond just a startup phase. And that allows them an opportunity for a potential return on investment. Is that right?
Yes, that's right. So, if you went in and downloaded the app today and put your money to work, you're automatically invested in the 25 or so investments that we have announced to date, and you'll get exposure to the future growth of all those companies. And you'll also be able to participate in all the future investments that we make. And, the return profile of all those individual companies as they grow and mature and either become successful or fail, all of that is reflected in the ultimate return profile of the fund.
Okay, got it. So for traditional, conventional venture capital firms, you mentioned folks would have to come up with 200,000, 250,000, 500,000, whatever it is, the minimum has at these conventional, traditional, old school, if you will, venture capital firms, which most people don't have access to, right? So Sweater provides kind of a substitute or an opportunity for folks to invest with a much lower minimum amount, and also have access, because can anyone just call up, even if you had 200,000 or 250,000, can anyone just call up, Andreessen Horowitz or Benchmark or these other companies and say, hey, I want to invest in whatever you guys are doing right now?
Oh, that's a great question. And the answer is absolutely not. Even if you know who the fund is and you want to put money in, it's not that simple. There's a lot more to it. I mean, Andreessen Horowitz has a line around the country of people that want to put money in, and they have more money than they need. And so much of it is, it's as much about the relationship that you have with the fund managers as it is about knowing who the fund is. It's very difficult to just wander in, even if you have the minimum check size, and actually have them take you seriously.
Yeah. So how, and your dad, you've been posting things on social media. So how important is it for dads, moms, and just everyday other people who are not parents yet to actually invest in certain type of assets and actually to focus on money? In other words, what does money provide average Americans, especially during the whole 2020 thing with COVID? I think people have a different respect, if you will, for their personal economy, which essentially means money. What money is coming in, what assets do they have? Is it passive income? Is it earned income? So how important is it in the year 2023 and beyond to have what some may define on their own as adequate finances? And what does it provide that person for themselves, for their family, and for the future?
Oh yeah. I mean, I don't know that there's really a way to get ahead if you're just living paycheck to paycheck, you know? I mean, and I think that's a phase of life for most people, that as you get started and you're early in a career, you know, like whatever your path is, um, I think that it's easy to do that. And the biggest temptation I see people fall prey to is lifestyle inflation, that every time that you have a bump in earnings, you know, wherever it comes from, you just buy more stuff and you get more obligations and you get a little bit of a nicer car and you bump up to a nicer house and you take an extra vacation and you're not really putting money away. It's just not a wise long-term strategy to follow. And I think that the most successful, financially successful people know that they need to be putting money away and putting money to work for them, because you can work for money every single day, right? And cover your expenses and find the lifestyle you want. But one day you're not going to want to work. And the only way to make that work, unless you want to live on a $700 a month Social Security check that might come to you, if it even exists in 30 years when you retire, is to put that money to work for you. And you need to do it sooner than later in your career. So, you know, having that independence is important, even if you only have $500. Don't go spend it just because it's only $500. Put it away. And in 6 months, you'll find another $500 that'll pop up somewhere. And, you know, you put that away too and put it to work. You know, so I think that mentality is important. And, you know, within that, there's a whole strategy of how you put it to work is an entirely different conversation that I'm sure we could go down 100 rabbit holes on. You know, as it pertains to my world, what has been traditional is saying, you know, you have a split between public assets and private assets. And generally speaking, the recommendation has been you should have 10 to 20% of your portfolio in private assets of some kind, which includes real estate and, you know, whatever else you could actually get access to. While the other, you know, 80% or so should be in public equities and stocks and bonds and like whatever else might be available to you. So there's a lot of that shifting right now as well, with the way that inflation had this nice uptick over the last, you know, year or two. And it's going to linger. You know, I don't think it'll go away and be back where it was 5 years ago next year. I don't think it'll get there that fast personally, but you have to take all that into account, because, you know, you have your cash sitting in a checking account that's, you know, or savings account that's giving you a 2.5% yield, and inflation's 6% or 4%, you're losing money, you know, so you got to be smart with it. And they're hard choices, but, yeah, I think definitely, you know, like you said, your personal financial economy, you need to be smart about that stuff, and it needs to be more than just lifestyle inflation.
Yeah, I agree, and I think it's even more important nowadays with you know, just everything happening in the national and global economy. So I've been very lucky because I've been privy to thousands and thousands of financial statements of America's taxpayers over the last year, just because of my work. And I've worked with folks who are considered, you know, ultra high net worth, all the way down to let's say wage earners, everyone in between. And like you mentioned, I think the folks who really set themselves up for financial success are the ones who earned a dollar, took that dollar from working hard, whatever job it was, and then invested that into some sort of asset class that maybe doubled or tripled, or maybe put off some passive income so they can use that passive income to pay the bills and do whatever else they wanted to do. And I've seen that all the time. And I've seen that for 40-year attorneys. I can't tell you how many attorney clients I've had over the years that worked at a law firm as partners for 30 years, 40 years. These are very well-known law firms that they've worked at. And they're in the red, meaning their expenses are far beyond what their income is, even though they might be considered so-called high income. That comes down to management. It comes down to understanding exactly earned income is very, very different than just living off that earned income versus earning income and immediately getting rid of it, or a certain portion of it, into an investment of some sort. And that's why I love what you're doing with Sweater. And it was really appealing because a vast majority of people don't have this high income, like some of these clients of mine and things in the past. So there hasn't been, at least from what I've seen over the years, access to certain asset classes. So when I saw Sweater, I was like, okay, this is a great opportunity for the average person, number one, to learn exactly, you know, what a venture capital fund is, and exactly, you know, what to do with their earned income once they receive it, and how to manage that, how to have experts managing their investment. So let's walk through Sweater. So if I get on, so I have to download the app, And once I download the mobile app, you said the minimum to invest is $500. You usually get $2,000, $3,000 investments. So as a user, once I download the app, will I be able to see the portfolio companies? And if I invest $500, is my $500 applied across those portfolio companies, or do I get to pick and choose what I want to invest in?
Yeah, so the sign up process is super easy. I mean, first off, like, you can go download the app and get access to seeing the portfolio companies and the education. You don't need to make an investment to get to that stuff. You can skip it and come back to it later. Making the investment itself might take, I don't know, 10 minutes if you know your passwords, because you got to go through a variety of disclosures and whatnot. And then, you select how much you want to invest. And then, we have a variety of tools in place that allow you to connect to the bank account of your choice. You can either authenticate directly into your bank account, or you could do it in a different way and do a direct ACH transfer if you wanted to do it like that and go through that process. From an investment standpoint, one of the cool things that this structure allows you to do is sign up for a monthly recurring investment as well. So about a third of our members sign up for, monthly or weekly payments, or investments, I should say, that come right out of their paycheck and goes to work, and they buy in at whatever the price of the fund is at the time, and they grow their position. About half of people, another 25% or so, do one-time investments throughout the year. So they're not recurring, but they get a bonus or they get whatever, and they'll come drop some more money in. So about half of people that have put money in continue to grow their account over time. It's a easy way to continue to move up that position. So when you buy in, I think it's important to note that there's the way that it's tracked. It feels a lot like a mutual fund. So a mutual fund is the value of your investment is tracked through this concept called a NAV, or a net asset value. And it kind of feels like a stock price, because when you buy into a mutual fund, or you buy into the Cashmere fund that we have, you're buying units of ownership in the fund itself. And so those units have a price on them. So today, I think, we're at like $20.72 or something like that. I'd have to go double check exactly where we're at. But when you buy in, you're buying, and you put in, $5,000, you'll get X number of shares according to, whatever is that price is. And when you buy in at that price is a reflection of the value of all of the assets in the fund. So you automatically get exposure to everything that's currently in the fund. And then in the future, as we take your cash and your investment and everyone else's investments, and we pool that together and we make more investments into more companies, you're automatically getting exposure to all those as well. And this all falls under, the precept that this is professionally managed. So just like in a mutual fund, you're not going to pick and choose which stocks are in that mutual fund. You are buying into the mutual fund and the thesis of that fund. It's the same thing with the Cashmere fund. Our assets are just private venture-backed technology companies. And whereas, a mutual fund is buying into public equities and public stocks.
And so how are these portfolio companies being I guess on the radar for Sweater? So do you have entrepreneurs and folks coming over to you? Do you guys go and find these great new startup companies to invest in? How does that work?
Oh yeah, the investment and capital deployment part is fun. This is what I signed up for this for. So we've got 3 main channels that we get opportunities through. Every month we have calls with about 50 VCs across the country that are partners, and we share opportunities and deals with each other as they come up. So about a third of the investments we've made have come through partners. And we see a lot of really good opportunities that way. We've also got a scout network. I think we're at 125 or so scouts that are spread across the country. And these are folks who are, founders. They might be software engineers. They might be former investors or analysts at funds. And, we've qualified that they know what they're doing and that they know what to look for. We have a private Slack group where they hang out, and we provide ongoing education and, celebrate the wins that everybody has. And then they're out in their local community, and they're on LinkedIn and wherever they're at, and they're always looking for opportunities. And when they bring them, they bring them into our deal team, and then we professionally vet these opportunities as well. So, we've got, I think about a quarter of the fund has come through those channels. And then, the rest of it comes directly to us. I mean, we are very much out in the public eye. We do a lot of advertising, and because of that, founders know who we are, and they'll come to us organically. So to give you kind of an idea of how many deals we see, during our first year of operations, we saw about 2,500 pitch decks from founders. We spoke with about 700 or 750 founders, more or less, and actually got on the phone to let them walk us through it. And then of those, we conducted full diligence on about 60 or 70 of them, and we made 27 investments. So it kind of gives you an idea of like how much work goes into finding companies who are a great fit, match our thesis, and that we believe in what those founders are building.
Yeah, wow, that's quite a bit of information to review over a period of 12 months. So you guys are vetting the opportunities, and you guys are looking at what are you looking at when you're trying to decide which companies to actually add to the portfolio? You're looking at the founders, what their background is. You're looking at sales. You're looking at revenue. You're looking at potential for growth. What exactly are you looking for your criteria?
Yeah. I mean, everything you just mentioned is accurate. But let me back up a little bit and maybe provide some different context. So VC funds typically run on a thesis. So that thesis defines the world that you're hunting in, right? Like if you're going to go hunting in Africa, right? You're probably not going to just shoot every animal you see, right? You're going to go specifically because you're hunting lions or because you want a wildebeest or you have like whatever, right? And you're going after something very specific. And it's the same thing for venture funds. So we invest in early stage consumer touching companies. So that means that we're investing at pre-seed through Series A, which is the earliest 3 stages that exist for companies as they're going down the venture path. And then consumer touching means that it's anything that's really easily relatable for everyday people and they can easily understand it. And that has some kind of component that has a consumer element to it. So really easy would be like consumer technology. Like you look at like an Uber or an Airbnb, like that kind of category of technology company is very clear fit for what we do. Or even looking at like consumer products, having physical products that you can purchase online that get shipped right to you. There's a big movement around that, and they have a very specific model that works for us. But then you look at like health tech and even some B2B SaaS, software as a service. There's a lot of areas where it fits well for us, because if you took something like Slack, most people end up using at work. It's a B2B technology. You're like Slack is selling to other businesses, but within that, the tool ultimately serves the employees of that business, and most people use it. So that would be like a really good fit for us if, we found them when they were teeny tiny. So, there's a lot of those elements, but I'd say the number one criteria that we really examine is how can we leverage our community in order to affect the outcomes of the companies that we invest into. So we've got about 40,000 people in the community right now. Over 5,000 have actually made investments into the fund. And so we look at that and we profile everybody, and we know who you are, we know where you work, you've volunteered that information to us, I should say. So we know all these data points about you. And our objective is to say, okay, hey, we're looking at this company called Slack when it's really small. If we made an investment in that, could our members purchase that product? Could they promote that product through their personal channels? Could they champion it at work and get adoption at the place that they work? And that's what we look through that for, because from a competitive advantage over other VC funds, because we're competing against other VC funds. Those founders are out talking to lots of VC funds, and they're trying to find the right fit as a partner as well. So this is something really unique that we bring to the table, and that allows us to win really good deals.
Yeah, I think that's really important and nuanced. What you just said is you actually utilize and leverage your community to help gain exposure of these portfolio companies. Is that right?
That's right.
So,
yep.
so the community, the investors, everyone else is part of the Sweater community, could actually have an opportunity to, if you will, be an extension of the marketing team for these portfolio companies that they're invested in.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah, I love that. And that was a conversation I was having the other day too with a manager of a different fund. Is even the portfolio companies within the fund have certain synergies, and those synergies can actually be leveraged, for the benefit of everyone. So very interesting and unique approach. So the entrepreneurs and the founders who just listen to the criteria, if they want, if they fit that criteria and they could potentially be a portfolio company of Sweater, what should they be doing? Should they I know that you don't want them sending you thousands of pitch decks to Jesse, but what, how can they reach out to you guys and start that conversation?
Yeah, so we have kind of an open door policy, and it's sort of a known thing in the venture world that you have to know somebody that knows somebody in order to get the attention of a partner at a VC fund. And I think that's archaic. I mean, but it makes sense. I mean, like VCs are very, very busy. And so they leverage referrals as a filtering mechanism for quality. If you're introduced through someone that they know, then there's a higher likelihood that you're going to be a good company to talk to and that's worth their time, because their network is not going to risk their reputation referring someone that they didn't think is a good fit, right? So it's just natural kind of business making, but it's hyper acute in the world of venture capital, and it makes it hard to raise money. So we've gone the opposite direction and said, hey, we've got an open door policy. Anybody can apply. It doesn't mean that you're going to get an audience to actually talk to us, but we look at every deck that comes through the door. So we've got an open application form that's on the website that you can find. There's also another one inside the mobile app that you can go in there and you can submit your deck. And, we usually have about a 7-day, depends on holidays and whatnot, but like 7 to 10 business day turnaround to get back to you and either give you a quick no or hey, let's hop on the phone, kind of an approach. So yeah, anybody can come and apply.
And then what about the potential investors who want to learn more about Sweater? What's the best way they could get information?
Yeah, I mean, I think the best thing to do is go download the app, right? I mean, we've got a great website that lists a lot of really pertinent information. You can also see all of the portfolio companies on the website and whatnot. There's links out to our official prospectus, and you can see how we have positioned ourselves in our application, our registration with the Securities and Exchange Commission. Like all that information is available both on the website and on the mobile app. I mean, I'm partial to the mobile app just because it's nice. It can sit in the palm of your hand. We can give you a little bit more of an experience than what you get through a website just in any general fashion. But yeah, that's the best place to go. And there's lots of programming that we do, like if you go in and you want to learn and it's not, the right timing in your life, that's fine. Stay around, enjoy the game. We'll keep you up to date as we continue to make progress and make new investments. And whenever the time is right, jump on in. We're definitely not a high pressure sales environment. We want people to make sure that this is a good investment for them. Because it is a long-term mindset. This is not investing in, your brokerage account on Robinhood. This isn't a crypto opportunity. You're not going to get rich overnight. That's not the way venture capital works. It is a high-performing asset class, but it's also a very volatile asset class. And you have to go into it with the mentality that you could potentially lose your investment. The way that we are structuring this with a very large portfolio of hundreds of companies eventually, it's unlikely that you would lose all your money, but it may not return well, but it could also return really, really well. Like the S&P has averaged, I think an 8 or 9% return profile over the last 30 years, when you kind of run that trend line. And venture capital is, when you look at the median performance, it's around 12%, but then you start going up to that next quartile and it's more like 20%. And then the upper decile is more like 40. And so, that's why people put money into this asset class. You have a chance of underperforming public markets, but you got a pretty darn good chance of outperforming it as well. And that's why you really have to believe in the people who are actually investing your money.
And this is open to folks across the country?
Yeah, you do have to be U.S. based. As we say, you have to have a relationship with the U.S. government, a tax relationship with the U.S. government. So part of the process when you come in is we do have to run these checks called Know Your Customer, KYC checks. We also have to do anti-money laundering. So, you'll put in your address and you'll put in your social security number and all that stuff. And we go through trusted partners to know who you are, right? But within that, right, then at that point, you clear that and you're based in the US. And then, yeah, anybody can invest. You don't have to be wealthy. There is no income requirement. There's nothing like that. I mean, we've got 18-year-old college kids that invested their lunch money, and we've got 75-year-old doctors who have, $30 million in the bank who have written 6-figure checks. I mean, we've got one doctor he's an active orthopedic surgeon, and he puts in $1,000 a week. and it just hits his account every week, and he just continues to invest, so there's a cadence that fits for everybody.
Yeah, I love the idea also of recurring investments that happen automatically. I know for years, Bank of America has had this keep the change program where you have an expense and it just kind of rounds it up, takes those extra cents and throws it in the savings account automatically. So having something on auto investment, if you will, I think is extremely beneficial. And like we were saying earlier, it's vital, from my perspective, almost a necessity for average Americans to actually invest. It's no longer luxury; it's no longer limited to those with higher income, and I think Sweater is providing that opportunity for folks to invest a reasonable minimum amount, be able to actually get in the game and improve things for themselves, for their family. So kudos to you for finding a business that provides a tremendous amount of value to fellow Americans. I think it's rare to see an approach like that that actually improves people's lives. So kudos once again, and then hopefully you come back in the future with updates on exactly what's going on, and maybe you guys will go global. And other interesting things I could see down the road. So I appreciate you taking time to chat.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that. Yeah. I think, if I could just say one final thing about where Sweater's are going, it's interesting when you build something new, because you don't really know how the world will react until you put it out in the world. Right. And you give it some time to marinate and for people to get used to the idea and start understanding the implications. And then people start approaching you with what else is possible. And so the next stage for Sweater is exciting. I mean, day one, we launched one fund, which was the Cashmere Fund, which is open today on the app. But the vision for Sweater is to really open up this as a platform where different groups can come and launch funds alongside the Cashmere Fund inside our ecosystem. So now you, as a consumer, you can come in and you can see the Cashmere Fund, and you could see, I don't know, the SoFi fund, and you could see, a JP Morgan fund, and you could see a Mark Cuban fund, and you could see an Ashton Kutcher fund or whatever, right? And all these different groups and individuals can launch funds that give you more optionality. So when you come into the app, you can see all these different types of theses, and you can see different, personas that you want to be affiliated with, that you believe in, and you'll have more optionality, and you can take that, that $500 or $5,000 that you have and split it between different things that you believe in. And we're moving in that direction very, very quickly. So, 5 years from now, I mean, I'd love to have, 36 funds for the public to be able to choose from. And that's where we really start, shifting the way that the venture world works. Because you could create a point of gravity that demands attention and that will actually really change behavior. And it goes a few steps beyond opening up an asset class and saying, we're not just opening it up, we are shaping it. And that's what we ultimately want, right?
Yeah, that's really amazing. Being able to have access to not just Sweater's funds, but other funds as well. Accessibility was so limited up until now. So hopefully people understand the value of what you guys are doing, and I encourage everyone to learn more about investments in general, as well as looking into Sweater. And then let's definitely have you back in the future once that launches. I'd like to share some more with everybody.
It sounds good. Yeah, let's definitely stay in touch.
Let's do it. All right, Jesse, I appreciate your time. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks. Take care.
Yeah, let's go. I don't care what they all say. That's right, I'ma do this thing my way. Let's go. Been grinding hard on it all day. Okay, we work hard, then we all play. Yeah, I'm addicted to the grind, man. That's right, so I refuse to waste time, man. Yeah, one day it all will be fine, man. Let's go. Gotta commit to the climb.